A very good afternoon to all the students. So in the last
Good
class we have
afternoon.
gone through the concepts of mathematics related to the cryptography. So we have seen some concepts like modular arithmetic and what are the multiplicative inverses, how do you calculate the multiplicative inverses using extended Euclidean algorithm. All these things we have discussed, right? So we will continue with the same topic of mathematics related to the cryptography, but in this session we are going to discuss the concept of matrices as well as the concept of linear congruence, and finally we'll end up the session with the algebraic structures, right? So we know pretty well about these matrices, right? You are all familiar with the matrices concept. Right. So what does a matrix represent?
Rows and columns.
Super, right? So whenever you want to represent some data in the form of rows and columns, it is better you do it with the concept of matrices, right? Or else you can also say that whenever you want to represent the tabular form of data which consists of both rows and columns, then you can use the concept of matrices, right? So this branch belongs to a special branch of algebra which is called as the linear algebra, and according to the definition, a matrix V is represented with a m by n, right? These are called as the dimensions of the matrix, where the first dimension represents the rows and the second dimension represents the columns, right? You know very well about this, but it's a part of topic, so we'll just rush through the concepts and we'll have some idea on it, right? So any matrix is represented with m rows and n columns, where this m can be greater than n, or m can be equal to n, or m can be less than n. So any matrix is a rectangular array of 1 by m elements, in which this is not 1, right? This is L by m. Here I have shown it as m by n, where L is the number of rows and m is the number of columns. In general, we will be using the uppercase letter to represent a matrix. For example, if I want to represent a matrix I, identity matrix, I will do it in the capital letter. Similarly, if I want to represent the matrix B, I will do it like this. So this is just a notation, nothing to worry about it. And the elements inside the matrix are represented as A and the subscripts I and J, right? For example, let me take a 2 by 2 matrix, right? How many rows are there here? 2 rows, these. And how many columns are there? 2 columns. So this matrix is a 2 by 2 matrix, and what are these 2, 3, 4 and 5? These are the elements of the matrix, and this 2 is represented as A of 0, 0, right? So let us assume that we start the matrix row with 0, and since we have 2 rows, it is represented as 0 and 1. It is not mandatory that you should always start the index with 0, right? You can also start with 1 also, nothing wrong in it. You can do like this. Similarly, the first column is represented with 1 and the second column is represented with 2. So when I want to represent this 2, I should represent it as A of 1, 1, right? Which shows that the first one is the row number and the second one is the column number. Similarly, the element A subscript, here we have to write it as subscript, is located in the ith row and jth column, right? So matrices can be defined with the elements in Z. What is Z here? What
Set
does
of integers.
it represents? The set of integers which is ranges from minus infinity to positive infinity, right? So this is all about the definition of a matrix. And coming to the row matrix, can anybody tell me what do you mean by row matrix? So if the matrix consists of
Matrix with one row, sir.
only one row, then we call such type of matrix as a row matrix, right? So similarly, column matrix means a matrix that has only one column, which is represented by the dimension as m cross s, m cross 1, right? So since it has only one column, it is called as a column matrix. And similarly, square matrix, as I told that the dimensions of the square matrix are always represented with m cross n, and if both m and n are equal in this example, right, here m is equal to 2 and n is equal to 2. So this particular example is a square matrix where the number of rows and the columns are equal. And this is important, the elements a11, a22, a33, right? For example, if you consider these two elements 2 and 5 in this 2 by 2 matrix, so the elements are represented as a11 and 5 is a11 is equal to 2 and a22 is equal to 5. So these elements, the elements which are represented as a of ii or a of jj, will make the main diagonal, right? Sometimes we make use of this matrices concept in the cryptography also, right? That is the reason why we are discussing the matrices concept, right? We'll see when we will make use of these matrices. So that is the main diagonal concept. And coming to the additive identity matrix, so additive identity matrix is denoted by O, where it is a matrix with all rows and columns set to zeros. So you have everything denoted as 0. That's it. For example, I take this like this. So this is a additive identity matrix. Similarly, identity matrix. Additive identity matrix is different from the identity matrix. The identity matrix is denoted by I, capital I, and it consists of the main diagonal elements as 1 and the remaining elements as 0. So this is a 2 by 2 identity matrix. Similarly, if I want to make a 3 by 3 identity matrix, how should I write it? So the main diagonal elements should be 1 and the remaining elements remains 0. So this is called the identity matrix. Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And coming to the operations and relations that we have in the matrices is, we have only one relation and 4 operations. The only one relation we have is the equality. So when can we say that two matrices are equal? They are represented as like this, A is equal to B. So when can I say that A is equal to B? Whenever all the elements in A and the corresponding elements in B are equal, right? For example, let us take the elements like this, A11, A12, A21 and A22. Similarly, let us take the B matrix as B11, B12, B21 and B22. Right. So this is matrix A and this represents matrix B. So when can I write this equation? When this equation gets satisfied, A is equal to B. For every element in A, the corresponding element in B should be equal. So this should be true in case of all the elements. Then only we call that the two matrices are equal, right? So A11, what is the corresponding element for A11? It is B11. So A11 should be equal to B11. Similarly, A12 should be equal to B12, and similarly A21 should be equal to B21 and A22 should be equal to B22. This is a simple example we have taken with a 2 by 2 matrix, but this particular property applies to all the types of matrices, right? You take the square matrix or rectangle matrix, and most particularly when you want to relate the individual elements, first of all you have to verify whether their dimensions are matching or not. So what is the dimension of this A? It is 2 by 2. And what is the dimension of this B? It is 2 by 2. So this A matches with B. First of all, you have to look for the matching of the number of rows in A should match with the number of rows in B. Similarly, the number of columns in A should match with the number of columns in B. After then only, when these two are matching, then only you can go for verification of whether the elements are matching or not. Right? So, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. Similarly, addition and subtraction. These four are the operations. What are those four operations we have? Addition, subtraction, multiplication, and scalar multiplication. Addition and subtraction are a straightforward operation where you have to add. For example, if you consider the addition operation of two matrices, and those two matrices should have the same number of rows and columns. So, in addition and subtraction of the matrices, the two matrices should match their dimensions. Right, dimensions means rows and columns. So, if you take the matrix, the first matrix as a 3 by 3 matrix, what should be the dimension of the second matrix?
3 by 3.
3 by 3 only, right? So, like that, first of all, you have to match the dimensions of the matrices, and once you are clear about, that means once you have passed the test where the number of rows and columns are equal, then you can add the elements in a simple fashion, right, as if you are doing a normal addition, right? So, A of A plus B is represented as Aij plus Bij for all I and j. Right. So, this is nothing but this one, Cij, where C is another matrix of size same, that means of the dimensions which is equal to that of A and B, and Cij is equal to Aij plus Bij. Right. This should hold for each and every value of I and j. The same is the case with the subtraction, where you will subtract the first element of the first matrix with the first element of the first matrix. Like that, every corresponding element of matrix A should be subtracted with the every corresponding element of B. Right. Very simple operation we have. And coming to the other operation, which is the multiplication operation, this is somewhat tougher when compared to that of the addition and subtraction operation we have in the matrices. Right. So, multiplication, we can multiply the matrices of different sizes. Here the condition should be carefully matched. Right. For example, if I take the matrix A as m by n, the matrix B as n by k, right. So, A matrix is having m rows and n columns, and B is having n rows and k columns. So, can we apply the product of these two matrices? By looking at the dimensions, you can check whether these two matrices can be applied the multiplication operation or not. The condition is that the number of columns of the first matrix, that is A, which is equal to n, should match with the number of rows of the second matrix, which is n, which corresponds to matrix B. Right. So, the resultant matrix will be a matrix C, which is having the dimensions as m by k, where m represents the number of rows of the first matrix and k represents the number of columns of the second matrix. Right. So, in order to have the multiplication of two matrices, it is mandatory that you should always check the condition that the number of columns of the first matrix should be equal to the number of rows of the second matrix, and the resultant matrix will be having the rows which is equal to number of rows of first matrix and the columns which is equal to the number of columns of the second matrix. Right. So, we will write like this: C of ik is equal to summation of Aij star Bjk. So, this is the formula. You know very well about this multiplication. So, there is no need to give the example also. And coming to the last operation of the matrices we have is the scalar multiplication. Scalar multiplication is nothing but multiplying the entire matrix with a scalar value. Right. So the scalar value is nothing but a simple integer value. For example, let me take the matrix as 2, 3, 4, 5. This is A. If I want to multiply or if I want to perform a scalar multiplication on this particular matrix, let us take the scalar value as k is equal to 2. So when I multiply this k with A, that means when I multiply this 2 with 2, 3, 4, 5 matrix, what you should do is you should multiply this scalar value with each and every value of the given matrix. So 2 into 2 it is 4, here we get 6, it is 8, and this is 10, nothing more than that, right? Very simple operation, this one. Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Right. But the concept here is we are not worried about the normal matrices. We are worried about the matrices which are operated on modular arithmetic. Right. Modular arithmetic plays very, very important role in the cryptography concept. Right. Till now what we have discussed about the matrices like square matrix, rectangular matrix, row matrix, all these things are the operations, addition and subtraction, multiplication, scalar multiplication, equality. These are not useful in the point of this cryptography, but what we are going to use is the same concepts of matrices are applied to the modular matrices, right? We will see what are those things. Before that, let me tell you what are these determinant. What do you mean by determinant? So determinant can always be calculated for a square matrix, right? So the determinant of a square matrix A of size m by m, why it is m by m?
Because it is 2 by 2, sir.
So because the determinant should always be calculated for
Rows
a
equal to column.
square matrix, right? So the number of rows is equal to the number of columns, right? So it is denoted as det A, and this is a scalar calculated recursively as shown like this, right? So if we have only one element, what is this m is equal to 1? So it is nothing but we are representing a 1 by 1 matrix. So we have only one element A, right? So the determinant becomes the same element A, nothing more than that. But if the m value is greater than 1, that means if I take 2 by 2 matrix or 3 by 3 matrix, any value that is greater than 1. So in such case we have to apply this formula where determinant of A is calculated as I is equal to L minus 1 minus 1 power I plus j star Aij star det A, right? So this particular formula is very much familiar to you, and there is no need to explain this thing. So the determinant is defined only for a square matrix. That is what we have discussed, right? And other than this, we have the inverses. So when you find these inverses, first of all, let me tell you how many inverses are there. There are two types of inverses. One is the additive inverse, and the second one is the multiplicative inverse. So additive inverse is a very simple concept where when you want to find the additive inverse, this particular formula should be satisfied, right? So A is one matrix, and let us assume that B is the inverse, additive inverse of A. So the matrix and the additive inverse of the matrix A, which is equal to B, and if I add both of them, the resultant should be a 0 matrix. That is simple, that B is equal to minus A. So whenever you want to find the additive inverses of a matrix, you simply negate each and every value inside the matrix A. For example, let me take the matrix as 2, 3, 4 and 5. If I want to find the additive inverse, let me take the additive inverse as B. What you should do? You should simply put the negative sign in front of each and every element. So the additive inverse becomes the minus 2, minus 3, minus 4 and minus 5. So it's a very simple concept. But coming to the multiplicative inverse, it is represented by A inverse. A inverse. It is denoted by this symbol. Right. And in calculating this multiplicative inverse, the determinant of a matrix should be calculated. This is very important. Right. So for this purpose, you should know how to calculate the determinant. So the multiplicative inverse is defined only for the square matrices. Again, we have a constraint that the multiplicative inverse is always calculated for a square matrix. And whenever you want to find the multiplicative inverse, this property should satisfy. A star A cross B is equal to I, where I stands for the identity matrix. In the previous slide, we have seen what this identity matrix is. Right. So and the multiplicative inverse of A is denoted by A inverse, and for the multiplicative inverse to exist, only if determinant of A has a multiplicative inverse in the corresponding set. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. And from this point, it is very important. We are concentrated in terms of cryptography. What type of matrices we need to have for the cryptography concepts or for implementing the cryptography concepts. So the type of matrices that you require for this cryptography are the residue matrices. What are these residue matrices? You know very well about the matrices. What are these residues? What is the name? What is the other name for the residue?
Reminders.
Reminders.
Reminder. Right. Right. So when you are using the reminders, what is the arithmetic you are using? It is nothing but the modular arithmetic. Am I right or not?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So we will be making use of this modular arithmetic in order to calculate the residue matrices. Right. So all the concepts we have in the matrices will be applied to the residue matrices also. Right. So what are the sets we have discussed there in the residue matrices? Z, Zn, Zn star, Zp and Zp star. What is this Z here?
Integer set of integers.
Set of integers. What does this Zn represents? Zn means
Set of
residues.
super. These are set of least residues, right? What is this Zn star? So these are set of the least residues, but we will be considering only those elements which have multiplicative inverses. As we take the concept of Zn, every element is having a additive inverse, but not all the elements will have the multiplicative inverse. Right. So we will consider those set of elements from Zn where we have only the elements which have the multiplicative inverses. Similarly, Zp represents the set of integers, but P represents the prime number. The same is the concept with Zp star, right? Set of integers which are prime numbers and which have only the multiplicative inverses. This particular concept is very important. Please keep it in mind, right? So what do you mean by residue matrices? Means cryptography makes use of the residue matrices where the matrices with all the elements are in Zn. What does this Zn represents?
Set of least residues.
Super, right? Set of least residues. Can you give an example? What is Z13?
0 to 12, sir.
We have the elements 0, 1, 2 and so on up to 12, right? So like that the matrices can be applied to the set of Zn, right? If such matrices are considered, and they should be considered for the cryptography, they only should be considered for the cryptography. So if such matrices we take from the concept of the least residue set, then we call such type of matrices as the residue matrices, right? So all the operations, whatever operations you take, addition, subtraction, multiplication and scalar multiplication, everything can be performed similar to that of the normal integer matrices, except that the operations are done in the modular arithmetic, right? So everywhere you will apply this mod of some n. For example, if I take the residue matrix of Z13, so it becomes mod 13, right? Every operation you do, then you apply this mod 13, that's it. That becomes the residue matrix, nothing more than that. Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Right. So the residue matrix has the multiplicative inverse. So what is that what is the condition that a matrix should have if it wants to have a multiplicative inverse? In the previous slide we have seen, right? The determinant of A should exist. In the similar lines, the residue matrix has a multiplicative inverse if the determinant of a matrix has a multiplicative inverse in Zn, right? How do you calculate the multiplicative inverse? How do you check whether the element is having the multiplicative inverse or not? Right. Very simple concept. Don't forget the basics. In the previous class we have seen how we can find whether the element is having the multiplicative inverse or not. We'll use the concept
GCD of the number and
GCD.
n will be equal to 1, sir.
Right. For example, if I want to check whether 2 is having the multiplicative inverse in Z13 or not, what should I do? I should find the GCD of 2 comma 13. If the GCD of 2 comma 13 is equal to 1, then the multiplicative inverse exists. So this is a test to check whether an element consists of multiplicative inverse or not. This is not the actual process to find the multiplicative inverse. It is used to check whether the element 2 consists of the multiplicative inverse or not. Right. In the similar manner, you have to check whether the determinant of A has the multiplicative inverse or not. If the determinant of A is having the multiplicative inverse, where we will check it by GCD of determinant of A comma n is equal to 1. If this condition satisfies, then you can say that the residue matrix has the multiplicative inverse, right? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
And the next
Yes, sir.
concept we have discussed in the earlier class also, congruence. What do you mean by congruence? The other name for the congruence is nothing but the equality, right? This equality is not used in terms of modular arithmetic. So we have a relevant term which is equal to the equality term, which is the congruence. For example, 2 is congruent to 12, is congruent to 22, is congruent to 32, mod 10. So when you want to apply the concept of equality under the modular arithmetic, you will make use of the congruence relation, and you have to explain it with terms of this mod 10 or mod 13, whatever number you take, it is your choice, right? In the similar manner, if we have two matrices, and if I want to say whether they are equal or not, right? So we have previously we have studied the operation, right? 4 operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication and scalar, and we have one equality relation, right? Here the equality is not used. Why? Because it is a modular arithmetic, so we have to use a relevant term which is called as congruence. So two matrices are congruent modulo n, written as A congruent B mod n, if they have the same number of rows and columns, very important condition, and all the corresponding elements are congruent modulo n. Every element should be congruent modulo n. So A is congruent to B mod n if Aij is equal to Bij mod n. This should hold for all i's and j's. Everything is similar to that of the matrices, except you change some terminology and except you apply the modular arithmetic concepts. That's it. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So that completes the concept of the matrices. So what we have studied is we have gone through the basic introduction part of the matrices, where we have seen what a matrix is, what type of matrices exist, what type of operations we have, what is the relation we have between these matrices. But all these are nothing but the brush up for the concept of the matrices which we use for the cryptography. You simply remember that the residual matrices is the concept which is applied for the cryptography. Similarly, congruence is the term that is related to the cryptography. So whenever you apply the concept of cryptography, it is better, or it is a good idea to make use of the modular arithmetic. So in modular arithmetic we have different terminology and different operations which we have seen in the previous sessions also, right? So once we are done with the matrices, we will go with the concept of linear congruence. Very simple topic. So how we are going to solve the linear equations? This is the concept of linear congruence. When can we say that when can we say that a linear equation is equal, right? How we can solve these single linear variable equations? All these things we will discuss. This is almost similar to that of the concept which we have discussed in the Euclidean algorithm, extended Euclidean algorithm, right? So extended Euclidean algorithm can be used to solve the equations. We have gone through 2 examples when we are discussing the same concept. The same rules apply here, but in the final stage we will check whether it is somewhat simplified when compared to that of the extended Euclidean algorithm, right? So is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So cryptography involves solving an equation or a set of equations of one or more variables with coefficient in Zn. Whenever we say that Zn, whenever you bring the term Zn, what is that? What is that?
Least residue, sir.
Least residue. That means you are going to use the concept of modular arithmetic, right? So cryptography always involves solving n number of equations or a set of equations which may consist of maybe one variable or more than one variable also, right? And that can be done by using this matrices or extended Euclidean algorithm or whatever it may be, right? So we have a lot of algorithms to solve this. So but when you consider the coefficient set from the Zn, then we say that the solution for the linear congruence, like that we have to discuss, right? So single variable linear equations are of the form Ax. What is this symbol called? What is the name of that symbol?
Congruence symbol, sir.
Congruence.
Equality.
No. You should not say it as equality. Equality is double.
Congruence, sir.
So in the modular arithmetic, there is no concept of equality. There is a concept of congruence, right? You should always represent the symbol with 3 hyphens like this. So a single linear equation, variable equation. Here we have only one variable. What is that variable? Which is nothing but the x here. Is always of the form Ax is congruent to B mod n. So how do you solve this linear equation? How do you get the values of x here? Solving of this linear equation is nothing but what are the valid values for that x? That is what you have to identify, right? Right. So this type of equation, the linear single variable linear equation, might have no solution or limited number of solutions, right? It may not have a solution. The same case we have discussed in the extended Euclidean also, right? There also we may have no solution or we may have more than one solution, right? So if we have more than one solution, infinite number of solutions, one solution is a particular solution and the other solutions we call them as the general solutions. Do you remember that concept?
Yes, sir.
Right. So here also you have an equation, and that equation consists of only one variable, and when you solve it you may end up in no solution. That means x does not have any value, or you may end up in limited number of solutions. There we have the infinite number of solutions, but here we have limited number of solutions. How many solutions, that we will discuss, right? So how do you identify whether you have the solution or not? How do you identify this? You have to find the GCD of a comma n. Why we are taking this a? What is this a here? We have the equation as ax congruent to b mod n, right? You always consider this equation. Now tell me, what is this a here? What is the name of this a? X is variable. What we put in front of this variable? We have a term here. What is that name of the term? I am underlining it. Could you read it?
Set of equations.
No, I am
Equations.
asking you the name of a. What do we call this a? I am calling this x as variable. Similarly, we have this a. What is this a? Here you can see
Coefficients.
it is coefficient, right? So when you take this coefficient in Zn, so what is n here in this particular example? This one, right? So this a is the coefficient and this is an element in Zn. So you have to find the GCD of a and n. If it is equal to some value d, then you have to check the d plus b, right? So you have to add this GCD and the b value. So if this condition is true, then there is no solution, nothing to do, right? We will see with an example also. And if d divides b, so if d, the GCD of a comma n is equal to d, is going to divide b, then we have how many solutions? It is equal to d solution. That means whatever value you have for the GCD, those many solutions you have. For example, if I have the d value as 2, so how many solutions I have? 2 solutions. If I have the value of d is equal to 4, how many solutions I have? 4 solutions. Like that, the number of solutions is identified by finding the GCD of a comma n, and if the GCD divides the b value, then we have d number of solutions. And these are the steps to find the equation or to find the solution for x. So first of all, you have to reduce the equation by dividing both sides of the equation by d. So first of all, you have to find the GCD and you will get the value of d, and if d divides b, then you can identify that there are d number of solutions, and after that what you have to do is you have to simply divide the given equation with the GCD that is obtained, right? And remember that this you have to follow with respect to modulus also, right? Even whatever value you have in the mod operation, that should also be divided by d. That is the caution you have to remember, right? And after that, multiply both sides of the reduced equation by multiplicative inverse of a to find the particular solution x naught. And after that, the general solution of x is given by x naught plus k into n by d, where k ranges from 0 and so on up to d minus 1, right? We will see it with an example, then it will be very clear, right? So solve the equation 14x congruent 12 mod 18. What is the value of a here?
14, sir.
14. Super. What is the value of b here?
12, sir.
12. What is the value of n?
18, sir.
18. Right. What is the set we have considered here? What is the least residue set?
0 to 17, sir.
Z18. Am I right or not?
Yes, sir.
Now the first step what you have to do is you have to find the GCD of A and N. What is the GCD of 14 comma 18?
2, sir.
It is 2. And this is called as D, right? You have to check whether D is dividing this B or not. Yes, it exactly divides. So 12 by 2 is 6, therefore it is dividing. So you can say that there are 2 solutions, D number of solutions. What is the value of D here? It is 2. So you have 2 solutions for the given equation. Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
And later what you have to do is you have to divide the entire equation including the modulus with D. What is the D value? 2. So if I divide this entire equation with 2, like this and like this. So 14 by 2 is 7x congruent to 12 by 2 is 6 mod 18 by 2 9. So you may forget this particular concept. You won't divide the D or you won't divide the modulus with D. Then you will end up in a problem, right? So you should be very careful that the entire equation should be divided by the GCD, right? Is it clear up to this point? So the equation, the modified equation what I got is 7x is congruent to 6 mod 9, right? So what is that you have to find? You have to find the value of x. So what is that you have to do is you have to multiply both sides with the inverse of 7, right? For example, I have the equation like this. So if I multiply both sides with inverse of 7, I get like this. Am I right or not?
Yes, sir.
What is 7 inverse 7?
1, sir.
It is 1. Therefore, this becomes 1. X is congruent to 6 star 7 inverse mod 9. So you have to find the value of 7 inverse under 9. So what is the 7 inverse of under Z9? How do you find the 7 inverse? What are the values of 9? Z9?
0 to 8, sir.
0 to 8. So finding inverse is very important. Listen carefully, right? So if I have a value of x here, if I want to find the x inverse, let me take the x inverse as x inverse like this. The condition that should be satisfied here is x star x inverse mod n is equal to 1. This is the condition it should satisfy. So for example, I want to find the inverse of x is equal to 7. Right. So you should find the value which satisfies this condition. For example, let me take 0 first, right? Let us assume that 0 is the 7 inverse. So 7 star 0 mod 9. What is the value of 7 star 0 mod 9? What is 7 star 0? What is 7 star 0?
0, sir.
0 mod 9.
0, sir.
0 mod 9.
0, sir.
0. So it is not, it is equivalent to 0, which is not the inverse. So 0 is not the inverse of 7. So I will take the next number, 7 star 1 mod 9. What is 7 star 1?
7, sir.
7 mod 9. What is 7 mod 9?
7, sir.
7. So
Seven,
this is
sir.
also not satisfying the condition. Now I will go for 2. 7 star 2 mod 9. 14 mod 9. What is the result?
5, sir.
5,
So
sir.
this is also not satisfying. Now I will take 3. 7 3 mod 9. 21 mod 9. How much?
3, sir.
Not
3,
satisfying.
sir.
Now I will take 4. 7 star 4 mod 9. 28 mod 9. What is 28 mod 9?
1, sir.
1, sir.
So you can observe here that when we multiply this 7 with 4 and modulo operate with 9, I am getting the remainder as 1. So here the condition is satisfied. Therefore the 7 inverse is 4. Right? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So 6 star 7 inverse is replaced with 6 star. What is the 7 inverse I got here? 4 mod 9. So 6 4s are 24. 24 mod 9 is what is 24 mod 9? 9 2s are 18 and the remainder is 6. Therefore I get the 6 as the solution. And this is the particular solution, right? This is one solution I have. So x naught is equal to 6 is one solution. So if you substitute this 6 inside this equation, you will get the same answer, right? And how many solutions I get here? In the first step, after finding the GCD, I have identified that I have two solutions. One solution is x naught is equal to 6, and what is the other solution? You have to apply this formula. X1 is equal to x naught plus k into n by d, right? So x naught I know. What is the value of x naught here?
Six, sir.
6, right? I know what the value of n, which is equal to 18. I know the value of d, which is equal to 2. So n by d, 18 by 2, 9, and you take the value of k is equal to 1. So it is equal to 6 plus 1 into 9, which is equal to 15. This is the second solution. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So this is how you will solve the linear equations, right? And coming to another example, right? See here, the equation that he has given is 3x plus 4 is congruent modulo 6 mod 13. So you have to reduce this given equation in the form of ax congruent modulo b mod n. So for this purpose, what you have to do is you have to add the additive inverse of 4 on both sides. What is the additive inverse of 4? Finding additive inverse is very simple, right? You just negate the value. So what is the additive inverse of 4?
Minus 4, sir.
What is the additive inverse of 9? What is the additive inverse of 9?
Minus 9, sir.
Minus 9. What is the additive inverse of 11? Minus 11, right? So we have to find the additive inverse of this, that means I have to reduce this equation in this format. So I should remove this 4. So to remove this 4, I should add the additive inverse on both the sides. So if I add additive inverse, I will get like this: 3x plus 4 minus 4 is congruent to 6 minus 4 mod 13. So this 4 and this 4 got cancelled, that is 0. So this is reduced to 3x is equal to 2 mod 13. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So what is the value of a here? It is 3. What is the value of b? It is 2, and n is equal to 13. So the first step is you have to find the GCD of the quotient, which is 3 and 13. What is the GCD of 3 and 13? It is 1. And you have to check whether this 1 divides the b or not. So what is the value of b here? 2. 2 by 1. Is it dividing or not?
Dividing, sir.
It is dividing. So how many solutions you have? You have d number of solutions. I got the value of d is equal to 1. Therefore, I have only one solution for this given equation. Right. So how do you find the equation? How do you find the particular solution? What you have to do is you have to apply the multiplicative inverse of 3 on both sides. So this equation is reduced to 3 star 3 inverse x is congruent to 2 star 3 inverse mod 13. Right. So 3 star 3 inverse becomes 1, x is congruent to 2 star 3 inverse. What is 3 inverse? In which set you have to find the 3 inverse? In which set you have to find it in Z13, right? So Z13 I have the value starting from 0 and ending with 12. So what is the inverse of 3 here? So I have to find the corresponding value which satisfies the condition mod 13 is equal to 1. This condition should be satisfied, right? So if I take 9, 3 9s are how much?
27, sir.
27 mod 13 is equal to
1, sir.
1. Therefore, the inverse of 3 is 9. So I should replace this 3 inverse with 9. So 2 star 9 mod 13, which is equal to 18 mod 13. What is 18 mod 13? What is 18 mod 13?
5, sir.
5, sir.
5. So this is the only solution we have for the given equation. Right. So let us take the third example where the equation is given as 10x is congruent to 2 mod 15. First of all, you have to find the GCD of this a and n. GCD of 10 and 15 is 5. Now you have to check whether this 5 is dividing this 2 or not. 5 cannot divide 2. Am I right or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So if 5 cannot divide 2, there are no solutions for this equation. That's it. Nothing more than that. Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that completes the linear congruence concept. Now we are entering into the algebraic structures. Right. So I don't think we have sufficient time for discussing this algebraic structure. So what we will do is we will end up this session at this particular point, and we will continue the concept of the algebraic structure in the next session. Right. So in today's class we have discussed the concept of matrices, where we have gone through the basics of the matrices concept, and we were introduced to the new topic called as residue matrices. Residue matrices are similar to that of matrices, but we will apply the concept of modular arithmetic. That's it, right? Similarly, we have seen the concept of congruence, linear congruence, how we can solve the solutions with single variables by using the linear congruence. All these things we have discussed, right? So this is the end of today's session. Thank you one and all. In the next session we are planning to discuss the algebraic structure, where we will close the concept of mathematics for the cryptography, right? Is it clear? Okay. Thank you one and all.